はい、皆さん、こんにちは。今日はですね、ポートランドに住んでいる、ジェイソン・ハッチェルさん、に、アプローチしてみました。古い友人でね、もともと日本で、いわゆるヒューマンリソース、つまりね、人材派遣とか人材の紹介をインターナショナルにやってきた、国際企業にいろんな人を紹介した人なんですよね。で、日本語も結構うまいですよ。で、まあ、そういう方に、今ね、ポートランドでどうしてもコロナのために、日本に来れない状態になっています。まあ、そういう彼の状況をね、これからお話を聞いてみたいなと思います。選挙も近づいてるし、アメリカの状況、ホットなところをね、見たいなと思います。じゃあ始めましょう。Hi, Jason.
Hey, Kagawa-san, how are you?
Fine, thank you. So how is it going over there?
It's okay. It's a little bit boring, I would say. You can't really go outside. You can't have the normal life. You can't really travel. But my wife and I and our two dogs, we're doing okay.
Good, good. You know what? I mean, basically, you are doing back and forth between Japan and the United States. Now you're stuck in Portland.
Japanese is
Right, right?
okay. My responsibility, honto da yo.
Yeah.
I'm I'm very much stuck. The immigration rules in Japan are not the same for Japanese and for people that have permanent residency.
Ah,
And so that is actually a really big problem for people like me that have, a business, that have family, that have, places to live, mail, which is building up.
that's
you know,
the interesting but serious point because you have a permanent residence privilege and you
that's
are allowed to come to live in Japan,
that's right.
but
Um,
you are discriminated from
yeah,
me.
I would say it's almost worse than discrimination,
Oh,
because I have to pay the same taxes as Japanese,
you are right.
because I have AJUCAN. So
Mm.
even though I must behave and have the same taxes as a Japanese,
And you don't have a criminal record.
I have no criminal record, uh, and I do pay a lot of tax in Japan.
I know.
um,
Oh,
so the lack of freedom is not very fair, and it's affecting a lot of families very
mm,
badly. So, for example, oppositely, I can't go into Japan right now,
mm,
but I know some people that, for example, they are in Japan now, and they can't go overseas and come back to Japan for their job.
mm.
This is important because there are some people with big family emergencies, people in their family who are dying, people in
Mm.
their family who are
I
losing
totally
work,
understand that.
right? So, the business community, the foreign business community in Japan
Mm.
quickly wants Japan to change these rules because, you know, if a Japanese goes
Same
overseas,
human beings, as far
well,
as you have a privilege.
also, Japanese can get sick too if they go overseas,
Oh, of course, of
but
course.
still Japanese can go back to Japan. So
Uh,
there is a double standard, I believe. And if we could just agree that we could do testing, just testing of the coronavirus to go back into Japan,
mm.
I'm fine with that, right?
But
But
when you arrive in Narita Airport, you have to be quarantined like 14 days or something. Are there any rules?
there are rules, but unlike countries like Korea or Taiwan, no one checks, right? So what's the point? I think that we know that every country has a double standard,
Mm.
for many different things, right?
I understand, I understand.
This is an unfortunate double standard, which what the result is, it is hurting Japanese business,
I
right?
totally understand. I totally
Of
understand.
course, good health is important. Nobody is saying that we want Japan to get sick, right?
Mm, mm,
But Japan can do a better job in opening the border, but also checking people to make sure that they're behaving. And
mm.
that's not happening.
You are exactly right. Now, how about your business? Because you cannot go to Japan and you have to remotely, operate about headhunting, such kind of things.
I'm glad you asked. There are maybe a few different things that I can say.
Mm,
Yes, of course, business is difficult.
mm,
Whenever, regardless of the coronavirus, whenever the economy slows down, companies don't hire people as often,
true.
right? The types of jobs which are in demand right now, a lot of engineering roles are being hired, right? You know, and also Japanese have gotten more accustomed to, you know, this type of communication via, you know, some sort of a social network or Zoom or Skype or FaceTime. So, you know, a lot of the recruitment work can still be done remotely. Right? So that's not really a big issue. But, you know, there are some things for business development. You know, you really want to meet somebody face to face, develop a close relationship. That is important. At the same time, though, you know, crisis is always an opportunity to think about things differently and do things differently.
That's good.
So I'm taking this time to develop other methodologies, other ideas for our business, while at the same time performing recruitment work in Japan.
Well, you know, I have a question. You know, do you have any tip? If I want to be employed, you know, and go to you, then now Skype interview, right? Which is different from ordinary interview.
Right.
Are there any specific attitude or like a behavior you want to recommend?
I wouldn't say that there is any specific attitude. You know, there are some basic visual things. So let me just do something very simple. A lot of Japanese, well, actually, I shouldn't say Japanese. A lot of people are very good at their job, but they're not very good at interviewing. And so, because you do your job every day, but you interview maybe once every 5 or 6 years, if that, right?
Yes.
So how you feel and look on camera can how you present yourself can be different. So let me give you an example. So sometimes I meet people and it's like doing this, talking to them.
Yeah, it happens.
Like, so don't do that. Do you want to look at that person? You know, you want somebody that has some common sense about how things look, space, right?
And also camera. Sometimes I do it, you know, I watch you on the picture, but actually you are watching my eye contact through the camera.
That's right. That's right. You know, I've done a lot of work with TV and radio before, so, you know, I know where to look, but a lot of people don't know how to look or how to behave. Right?
Nice.
So that's an important point. In terms of attitude, I think it's the same thing. Be positive, but, you know, be straightforward, you know, and I don't know how to translate this into Japanese, but don't sell yourself short. Okay. Right. So what I mean is that many people have lost jobs right now. And, you know, we get these requests like, you know, nandami arimasu, I'll do it, you know, kyūryō sakete mo daijoubu desu. And like, no.
That's not a good idea.
It's not a good idea. Because if you look nervous, if you look desperate, then employers won't take you very seriously. Try to be objective and look at your value.
Yeah, particularly sometimes culturally, Japanese themselves say something a little bit kind of modest, can I say? Or
It does happen. So for example, in some interviews, I don't think this is a good interview question, but sometimes people ask Japanese, you know, what is your weak point and what is your strong point? Right? And sometimes Japanese can be very bad at the strong point and then also give a really bad weak point, right?
Oh, good. Tell me, for example.
So I've known a person that when he was interviewing with a client, you know, he told the client, you know, what is your weak point? And he said, I am a bad father. And, you know,
that's not good in the United States, of course.
Right. I mean, it could be anywhere. But the point is that he was trying to say, in a positive way, he's a hard worker and he works a lot, you know.
That's right. But bad father expression is not good.
No, it's not good. And there has to be some balance there, right? And you need to educate people in advance how a Western interviewer looks at a candidate versus how a Japanese might look at it. A Japanese might understand that answer, right? But a Westerner thinks that you're trying to show the best part of you in an interview.
I totally understand that. Well, last question. Since you are living in Portland, Oregon, just I promised to the audience that, you know, I want to ask you about the current environment of Portland area and also United States under the big pandemic. And Can I ask you one thing? Oregon is a blue state or red state or a swing state?
It's not a swing state. I think Oregon is one of the few states in the past 40 years to vote Democrat for all major national offices.
Oh.
That and Washington State. So it is very much a left state. However, there is a long legacy of racism in Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
African Americans couldn't own property in Oregon for a long time,
Oh.
right? So, that's why Oregon tends to be the center of a lot of racial tension. You've got Portland, which is a very progressive city, and then you've got a lot of also, farm country and other country, and there's a lot of conflict which happens from that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate. My feeling is that most of the protests which are going on are actually peaceful. And I believe that the Black Lives Matter movement is important and valid.
So there are some kind of controversial issue is quite active in Portland, Oregon too.
Yes, that's right. That's right. I think that we like to believe in everyone's rights. Of course, not just blacks. But gay, lesbian, bi. It tends to be a very open place, and that's one reason why I really like living here.
I understand. Good. Jason, please stay healthy, all right?
All right.
Yeah, I know that, just confined inside the room so long time, not good for the mental health. But maybe I can see the barking dogs, dogs barking.
I know. You can see my backyard, though. I've got trees and greenery here. So that's another great thing about Portland.
Thank you. And let's talk about it later again, okay?
Okay, I look forward to it. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.